This conference will now be
recorded, I hope. Okay, anyway. Agenda, okay, so this is the, no, that's the wrong one. I gotta grab my right agenda. Okay. GenGov for Tuesday, August 4th at 7 or 7:07 in this case. And I'll read the formal announcement. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the General Government Subcommittee is being conducted by remote access only. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in this order. Despite our best efforts, we're not able at this time to provide for real-time access, other than if you attend to this meeting right now. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as we're able. And it is being recorded, as I mentioned. I don't know if Jim Cosgrove is recording it for cable. He was an email list too. So if he is, great. If not, oh well. Anyway, so agenda item number 1 is to consider and accept GenGov subcommittee minutes of February 4th. I don't actually have them in my packet. Does anyone else have them? No. Okay, I guess we'll skip over this then. Number 2 is to consider and accept GenGov subcommittee minutes of April 15th, 2020. Those are in the packet. Anybody have any questions or comments or corrections?
I'll have to abstain because I wasn't on the committee.
That's true, you weren't. Denise was, Jackie was, I was.
I have
Jackie?
to abstain too, Mr. Chair, because I wasn't there.
Okay, but you can make a motion because you're here. You don't.
Okay, so I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. I
Second.
Okay, thank you, Denise. I can hear you now. There were a couple.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to get my. Yeah.
Okay. You keep cutting out a little bit. I don't know what's up with that, but I did notice a couple of things that needed to be corrected. Under item number 1, the amount of 20,550,000 is not a valid number. It's 20,550, I believe. And item number under number 2, the amount of 304 million is far from a valid number. I think it's 304,163. And those are the only things that I noticed. Did anybody else have any corrections?
Mm.
Yeah, now I can see you, Denise. That's good.
This one. Yep.
Anybody else have comments or questions or corrections, or any other councilors who might have been there at the time? Jack, specifically, since you kind of chaired it for a while after I lost phone contact. So is Jack on this? I guess not. Okay. Do we have so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor as amended? Denise?
Doesn't it have to be roll call, Mr. Chair?
That's how we just do that. Yes. Denise?
But no, I'm not. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Jackie?
Abstain.
Okay. And I'm a yes.
I'm abstaining.
And Mike is abstaining. Thank you. Okay. Item number 3, review the contract between the town of Southbridge and Cook and Company Insurance Services. So is Melissa on?
Yeah.
I think her thing. You are? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So could you tell us a little bit about what this is for and why?
Sure. So for several years in the past, we've garnered the support of a consultant to negotiate our health insurance. We did not do that last year, my first year here, because Mindy, prior to her leaving, had negotiated a 2-year contract with Maya, our health insurance provider. Mm-hmm. And so this is to provide some guidance and assistance with negotiating what we hope to be a better health insurance for our employees, and then help us have the conversation with our employee groups about any changes that might be forthcoming with those insurances.
Okay.
Yes.
Does anybody, Denise? Was that Jackie that said something to do? Okay, Denise, I saw Denise. So Denise and Jackie?
What's that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Melissa, cooking company, how did we end up with cooking company? I don't recall them being
Honestly,
the,
so honestly, we had a different provider in the past, but I worked with Cooking Company in my previous provider. And specifically, I had worked with Jill Gallant-Shaw, who is on the meeting tonight, who can speak more about what her company provides. But I, in particular, like working with Jill, and Jill has the, how do I want to say this? It's an advantage to us that Jill worked with Maya many years ago, and she has sustained her ethical separation from Maya. So she is very familiar with Southbridge when providing us insurance guidance, because she has worked with Southbridge and with me personally at another employer around health insurance for the municipality.
okay, follow up. So was this a bid option, or do we go out and reference others, or did you just find this one? And
No,
I
did not go out to bid for this. No,
Okay.
I just solicited a quote from them, and this is what it came in at.
Okay, so follow up again. I have met Cooking Company at the MMA and spoken to them a couple of times. So what did we pay in the past? Did you have a history of what we paid? Because I can't recall as a counselor, but
I don't have it in front of me, but I believe the contract for last fiscal year was around 9,000 versus 9,800. I did reach out. We did not pay that last fiscal year. And when I reached out to that company, I believe that they were called GDS, not provide me what services they could provide in fiscal 20, given our situation that we had already negotiated a fixed cost for our health insurance that we could not break. So I guess I have to admit that I wasn't really fond of going back with them, because they couldn't give me any, they chose not to communicate with me.
Okay.
Okay. Jackie, did you have a question?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I thought you said earlier you did. Okay. Melissa, I do have a question. You mentioned that last contact was with GDS or something. How long had they been doing it? And I honestly don't remember seeing a contract with them at any time in the past.
Well, I know that the last, I don't know how long they had been with the town of Southbridge, and honestly, Jill has some experience from way back, so I think that they've been here quite some time. But I know that the contract that they were trying to enforce last year was for a 3-year with a 1 year with a 3-year, with a 2-year renewal option. And I know that I had indicated to them that I was not interested in the renewal option for fiscal 20, given we really couldn't change our situation at the time.
Okay. And also, I was curious about, first of all, did you look at any possibilities of doing it in-house?
Well, certainly we can do it in-house, and I do have some relationships with some insurance companies with my prior employers, but there is an advantage to having a third-party consultant, especially with dealing with the labor unions, in the sense that as a norm, labor unions do not trust the administration to have their best interests in mind. So it's good to have a third party to facilitate any change that might impact the employees.
Okay, that makes sense. And also, what the hell? I was going to ask you what the question was. Oh yeah, did you actually? You said that you requested a quote from them. Did you request any other quotes?
I did not.
Okay, because I know that generally good business practice is to get a couple, and although this is under 10,000, so, and I don't remember exactly what the figure was off the top of my head. I know it doesn't have to go to. I know it doesn't have to go to bid because it's not high enough for that. But
It's 9,800 is the exact amount.
no, I knew that. I meant that what the cutoff is for requiring 3 quotes by law. I know it doesn't have to go to bid because it's not 30,000 or 35,000, but I just asked Denise.
Yeah, no, I just, to your point, Mr. Chair, good business practice is generally at least getting 3 quotes regardless. So this is
That's
a
what I
large number. And
Right.
not to say there's anything bad against Cooking Company or Jill, who's with us tonight. It's just in the past, in the last few years especially, a previous counselor was continually a sticker on that point in terms of not, there were times when we got no other quotes, and yet that particular council would really be a sticker in terms of why don't we have another thing to consider.
Right.
I find it is a bit odd, and I don't think it's complete good business practice to just pick somebody you worked with before, no matter how good they are, without at least looking outside a little bit. So I'm nothing against this could be the best. It's just we have nothing to compare to. So I mean,
That was my concern too, Denise. And no, don't take it personally, Ms. Shaw. It's not directed at you. Karen, you had your hand up?
Yes, Gus, if I could. I just wanted to ask Melissa, I just looked it up and I think the name of the company was Group Benefit Strategies. Does that sound correct? They do the same type of work?
Yes, they do.
Okay, and I looked up in fiscal year 2019 and we paid them $6,000.
That's fine. And that was fiscal 19, you said?
That was fiscal 19.
Okay. How long had we had a contract with them? Do you know?
I believe that we had a contract for a while. I can't say exactly for how long.
Okay.
good question.
Do you mind if I just ask one other thing? Jill, is that were you with Maya before, or were you with the Group Benefit Strategies?
Hi, Karen. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I was never employed through Group Benefit Strategies. I was an account executive with the Maya Health Insurance Trust for about 8 years.
Okay.
And I worked very closely with the town of Southbridge. So I think that's the reason why Melissa contacted me, because I'm very familiar with the town's insurance and with many of the people on the insurance advisory committee. I think that's the reason why she contacted me.
Okay. Okay. I think okay, I see Mike's hands up. Good. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. Thank you. Just wondering, why do we need a third-party consulting group between us and the insurance company? The insurance company is like a middleman between the employees and their doctor. Now we have another consulting group between us and the insurance company and the doctor. I just was wondering why we need this third-party consulting. And also, why would it doesn't make sense to me that the unions don't trust our people, but they would trust this company. That doesn't make sense to me, but I think that if we can do it in-house, then we should do it in-house.
Melissa, could you address that?
Sure. So my experience has been that there's a perception from union leaders that that the town is out to get the best deal for the town and not fully invested in what's best for the employees. And whether that's true or not is sort of irrelevant when you go to negotiate insurance, because honestly, insurance is not what it used to be. It's not as strong a benefit as it used to be. And so it's often very contentious. And so I have found that, especially when you're negotiating with, I believe we accepted the 32B 21 through 23, which means that we have to have a group that negotiates insurance anytime we change the insurance plan. And it is often helpful with that group to have a third party validate that we are negotiating in their best interest as well as our own.
Gus?
Say something.
Denise, then Rick.
Okay. So I agree with, all that's being said by Melissa and all, and I can recall, having used the other company and such. My question to Karen, if she's still there, Karen Harnoy, if she had read this scope of services and had any idea whether or not this is in line with what we've had in the past, or is it in addition? Is there some reason that potentially it's so much more, and with that, the fact that we just have no one else to compare to. I do agree with not doing it in-house. Doing it in-house is tricky. I remember going through, the fire department especially, were very adamant at times about the insurance in terms of union and what we were offering back in the 50-50 day and others. And I do believe that, a third party and in between certainly can negotiate the waters a little bit better and perhaps, make people feel as though they're being heard and they can explain things, because it's true. The unions, I've been part of that, where they just believe that the town is just trying to do their own thing and not really looking out for the benefit of all. So I get that. I believe in that. But Karen, I see you're on. Do you have any idea as to whether you read this scope of service or anything, and whether it's the same? Or...
Denise, I actually haven't reviewed it and I haven't compared it to what we have from before. So maybe we should do a bit more work on it, and maybe we reach out and get at least another quote or two, even though it is under 10,000. It's probably, good business practice to do that.
Yeah. I think, as you say too, it would help. I mean, Melissa's in her position, and you wouldn't want there to be any appearances of anything that shouldn't be. So if we want to compare apples, I agree with you, Karen, and I would consider making that motion to postpone taking action on this contract in order to get at least one, if not two more votes. That's just my feeling.
Okay, I would have no
I'll
problem with
second that motion.
If you can hold off in a second, because Rick did have his hand up a second ago, so I'll let him talk first.
No, we can still have discussion.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I just had a comment on third party. I think it's very important for the town to have a third party to work with them. There's so much in the industry, insurance industry. No one person knows. Melissa's busy with finance to know all the ins and outs of an insurance company. I think they can compare different companies. They can bring added value. I think for the $6,000 to $10,000 that you pay, you'll get that back and added benefits or reduced costs down the road. I mean, in the private sector, we all use third-party companies to help us with our insurance and get through those hoops. So I think it's well advised for the town to move forward with somebody and as a third party.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, now I'll definitely entertain that motion that you just made. Denise made it.
Can I ask a question?
Who is asking that, Karen?
Melissa.
Oh, Melissa, okay, go ahead, sorry.
So my question is that, so I'm obviously I can get 3 quotes. My question is it this board's opinion that we should go with the lowest quote, even if we don't feel that they provide the same service?
Go ahead, Denise.
As a member of the board, no, absolutely not. I would like to see what another company's, what they would charge for this type of scope of service, which seemed quite in depth. I was reading through all the different things, the potential things. Obviously, Melissa, there's a lot of it that says upon the town's request, So clearly it would have to be something that you would know that you want to request for many of these things for there to be any validity to them. But they certainly are willing to do those things upon the town's request. So I think the scope, it seemed quite comprehensive. I just believe that we should have been comparing at least for your own good, Melissa. I do believe you should bring to us a few other outside options just to consider.
No,
That's
I
where-
don't disagree. My question was, is it price-based only or not?
I would think it would be whatever best-
Personally, I would not just vote on a high or low. I would vote on based on what we're getting and what the reputation and your opinion of the companies that you solicit. You
Okay,
obviously,
fair enough.
this is
I
an
just
important
wanted to
company.
understand the scope. Yep.
I would agree with that.
That's my own. That's just one vote here anyway, and I'm not all of council, so I'm just saying that's my opinion. So.
And I would certainly concur with that, there, Denise and Melissa, because
As would I.
where we need to see what they are capable of doing for us. And I know that there's some flexibility in procurement law about, and I don't know whether it falls into this level of procurement or not, about some things where you can vote for higher quality as opposed to lower dollar value. And I would certainly want to see that too.
Okay, it's not a low bid situation.
Yeah, exactly. So do we have any other further questions or comments or observations on this item?
Is there a time deadline, Matt asked?
Melissa?
Not particularly. I mean, in the next month or so, I need to start soliciting with other insurance companies, and I need to get our experience from the town. So I do need to move forward fairly quickly, but I don't think, I think I can at least get 2 more quotes in the next month.
So Melissa, if we were to have another GenGov meeting toward the end of August, that would be a good time frame to do something with this?
Yeah, I'll work on something.
Okay. Do you have anything you would like to say, Ms. Shaw? You're here, and I appreciate your being here, and I know you didn't expect to be under the scrutiny here, so.
No, that's quite all right. Thank you for the opportunity, and I hate to put you all on the spot. So that's certainly not why I'm in this call. I'm just here to answer any questions.
Okay.
I absolutely understand everybody's perspective, and I'm happy to wait it out, and hopefully the decision is to come back to Cook & Company and work with us. I think our pricing is really competitive, and I think that you'll find that our reputation and our services are superior in the industry. It's a very niche market, and Cook & Company has been doing it for over 30 years. And personally, again, I've been working with the town off and on for about 10 years. So I do think I could bring a perspective to the group, and I hope that you'll invite me back again if this discussion comes up. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Okay,
So thank you. All
Does
right.
anybody else have any questions or comments or anything? Okay, there's a motion on the floor and a second. Let's see, all those in favor, Denise,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
is our 5th member here? Me, yes. And I guess we don't have a 5th member at the moment, so, okay.
No, I was the 5th member and then I came on council.
Okay, so we will postpone that to the next GenGov meeting and we'll see when Melissa gets us 3 quotes, and then we'll aim for toward the end of the month sometime. Thank you for coming, Jill.
Thank you for having me. Take care, everybody.
Have a great night.
You too.
Item number 4 on our agenda is the review of the proposed agreement between the town of Southbridge and Valley Green Shredding. Is that who's running that one? Is that one? Is that you
That's
also?
me again. That's me again, Gus, and
Okay.
I don't have 3 quotes. So let's just start there.
Okay. Got some
Go ahead,
thoughts. Thanks. Yeah, no, read the information. I was a little concerned about, well, I have some questions. Melissa, so we're paying so much a month or every 4 weeks, twice, of whatever the deal is here, every 4 weeks, whatever the contract says, the 35 does. Is it in addition? Are the fees that are on this recurring service proposal additional? Or is that going to cost, is it going to be 32 every 4 weeks? Or is
So
it really, is there?
We don't have any agreement with that company right now. And so the ask is to, instead of having a shredder machine, which we do have here in the town of Southbridge, and paying our employees to stand at the shredder machine and dispose of confidential information, to pay the service of $35 a month to have them provide a lock container for us to empty information into, and then dump that on a 4-week basis. They come and pick that up. Again, this is a per service that I had at another community. I found it to be very beneficial, so that we didn't have a backload of storage files in our community, where we had a ton of files that needed to be disposed of properly, and we couldn't even sort through them, and we didn't have the space to to keep them in our storage facilities. I have talked with both the police department and the school department as to see if they would be interested in retaining a similar service. School is looking into it, and the police department has indicated they would be interested in such a contract, and that would bring the cost per container down. The more locations you have in a community, the better pricing this particular shredding service provides.
But how much shredding do you get for the 35? Do you get no shred? Is the shredding in addition to placing the container and coming out once a month?
So the container, like I have, let's just say I have payroll. So a lot of my payroll records need to be shredded. So I would place that material into the container. The container would be picked up once every 4 weeks and shredded on site by the company. That's the service they provide for $35. Right, currently, we don't pay anything for that. But I can tell you that I had a lot of material in the town building that needed to be disposed of. We had gotten our permission to destroy it, but the time and effort it takes to do so, it just didn't rise to the priority. I know that Shane is on the call. He said that this is something he'd be interested in, and I know that the chief of fire said that he would bring over, he has a backlog of material that needs to be destroyed, medical records, I'm sure, from the ambulance, that he's going to bring over 1 box at a time, should this service be available in the town hall.
Okay, so just
and additionally, I just want to say that this would be a town-wide service, not a service just for the treasurer's office. And I do that because it's just efficient.
Okay, but again, I'm looking at the document. So is this then a 64-gallon container? Is it just a 35-inch by 24-inch container? Is it how?
So I spoke with the owner last week, and it's the 64-gallon container every 4 weeks.
Okay,
for the town hall.
Yeah. Okay. What else?
Melissa, have you
sorry.
talked to the other departments around? Because I know that Will did a whole bunch of document demolition last year at some point, and he brought that to us some time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily for like hard drives and disks and things like that. And I know that there's huge archives of ancient diagrams for building projects and stuff like that down in the basement and stuff like that I don't even know if we need to keep. It's probably decades old and out of date at this point. Have you considered any of that, what the other departments might also need?
Right, so this would be a service provided to all departments. And what I found with the 64 unit container is that it's like a large trash can, like you would bring to the bottom of your driveway if you were at home. And so what I've done in the past is that if we have a backload, you sort of like you watch the calendar and the day before they pick up, you fill it up. Because we really have that much shredding on a daily basis or on a monthly basis. But over the course of years, you can just fill up the container as you get permission to destroy that material. You watch the calendar and you'd be like, okay, they're picking up tomorrow. Everybody dump their stuff. And that's what people do.
And who has the authority to determine what gets destroyed and what doesn't?
So that's a determination from the state. So we write annually to the Secretary of State for permission to destroy records. And there's a schedule, and we ask for permission based on, the years that those records have been maintained and passed an audit.
And who would have the authority to make those decisions in town? You and
Each department has the schedule and writes for permission from the state for their departmental records.
Okay. I noticed that Shane just popped up. Go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Chair. Thanks for having me tonight. And just to kind of echo what Melissa's saying, when I took over as chief, we had an evidence vault with, I'm going to say, hundreds and thousands of pages of documents that need to be destroyed. Crimes against children from over the years, from the 60s, 70s, the 80s. They were just never destroyed. They were just stuck in the basement. So what I did a couple of years, when I took over as chief a couple of years ago, I worked with the state and they gave us that exact schedule that Melissa's talking about, what I could destroy, what I couldn't destroy. And then I, as the department head, I checked with the town manager, and we made several trips out with a large van to get rid of those documents, and we incinerated them in Millbury at the incinerator. But they didn't charge us, but it was a lot of man hours that it cost the town, an hourly wage. So I'm on board with this, and we can do it it just seems more efficient to do it on a monthly basis, where I can bring things to Melissa, or I can have that tote type of thing in my building, where we can just, instead of standing over a shredder and paying someone hourly to shred, documents, narcotics, receipts, confidential payments to inform, things like that I have to destroy. Investigations that are closed, arrest reports, things with social security numbers, birthdays, identifying information, personnel records. So it just makes sense for me, and I'm in support of it.
Denise?
So two things. So Shane just mentioned bringing stuff over. So can you add on a container down the road? Say you start with yours and you're trying to determine whether 64 gallons is enough for the community, for the town hall business and the whatever, the police and those. Can you add on a container at another site later on? That would be one question. And I also want to note, this is a 2-year contract with an automatic renewal unless terminated, within the written order. Let's see, what is it, 60 days? Yeah, 60 days prior notice. Otherwise, it's an automatic renewal. So that's something to keep an eye on, just in case a year down the road, you're finding out that the bin is half full every month or whatever, and it turns out not to be. I don't know. I'm just saying something to think about in the contract. There is some very strong language in the contract for severance and all. Whoever wrote it certainly wrote it well for the company. But, anyway,
I saw that too, Denise. Yes.
Yeah.
Could you address that, Melissa or Shane?
So we can add as many containers as we want. So, but if we add additional containers, like I said, that's when it brings down the price. So if the chief was to have a container at his site, then it would bring down the price beyond $35 per container, probably down to the $32 that I had originally anticipated it would be. And I got it as low as $29 in another community where we had 4 pickup sites. So I never had a problem with this company severing the contract. And I will tell you that if you don't watch the calendar and fill it up with this stuff that you're sitting around that we need to destroy, then the container isn't full. The 64 unit container is far bigger than what we need on a monthly basis. What it's valuable for is that it's just not that much more expensive than the smaller container, and that we can sort of get caught up with our historical backlog of record storage, so that we can not only get rid of stuff we don't need, but then be more organized in what we do need to have and how to access it, because we don't have basements full of molding records that we have to comb through to get to what it is that is actually required for us to have.
Okay.
And to echo what Shane said, is that there is a man-hour cost, and we pay our employees well. So it's easy to spend $35 a day, never mind a month, on employee time to stand at a shredder. And so that's sort of my cost benefit view of a contract like this.
Okay, that makes sense. And also, can you explain a little bit the section that Denise was just referring to? If, as I read it, it says not only is it in effect for 2 years with automatic renewals, it seems like it would go on pretty much ad infinitum, because it's for successive 1-year terms. And I would definitely be more comfortable if we had a maximum number of automatic renewals put in there, so it wouldn't just be allowed to roll on forever.
I can certainly, I mean, this company is pretty flexible, and I could certainly change the contract to have it be a 3-year, you know what I mean, a 1 year with a 2-year renewal. I'm pretty sure I can get them to write the contract that way.
Because I would definitely, I mean, I don't know if I can understand it having roll over if we like the business we're getting from these people, but I would definitely want it to be set as a maximum of, say, maybe 2 or 3 rollovers before they have to come back, before we have to look at it again and say, okay, we may want to go for another contract. You know, because we don't want to have these contracts that just go on forever.
No, I don't disagree with that. I can get that modified.
Okay. Denise, do you have something you want to say on that?
Yeah, I'll just say, I mean, you can sever it with a 60-day notice, certainly. You just have to be mindful of when those 60 days appear. You know, it does say after the 2 years, you can sever it in 60 days, but you do have, it's otherwise it's automatic. So you got to put that on your calendar and know whether it is, before 60 days, you've got to be planning out 3 or 4 months to know if you're having a problem that comes 60 days, you terminate, that's all. But obviously, Melissa, again, it's a company you've worked with and you've had good luck, but like Councilor Steve says, I mean, down the road, there may be some procurement scenario. Again, who else does it? Is there a better company out there, offers a different service? Just got to be mindful of all those things when it comes to the taxpayers' dollars. And where's the money coming from? That's a question I have since budget was done. I mean, how are you planning on this fitting into it's not that much money, I get it, but I mean, where's it coming from?
Yeah, so we have contracted services in the treasurer's office, and I was assuming that I'd be able to make it work in there. We usually have a little bit extra, and
okay.
Just
curious.
It might be tight, but there's a lot of stuff in there, and I would like I said, this is something that the treasurer's office would pay for, because we do have a lot of shredding that we have to do, but certainly something that I feel should be available to the entire town hall and any other town office that wants to walk over here with their box of shredding.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Adequate. Thank you for answering the questions.
Mike, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah. Am I adding this up wrong, or am I confusing something here? Because at $32 every 4 weeks, it doesn't seem to add up to $416 annually. Maybe I'm overlooking something.
So
right?
The $32. So first of all, I thought that I misunderstood the discount that they were offering me of 20%, which is 20% off the $40 container. And so it is actually $35 a container that they have offered me. However, if Shane in the police department should choose to get a container there, it would go down to 32. And it's not 12, it's usually 13. My experience has been, because it's every 4 weeks and not once a month, it ends up being 13 dumps basically of the container annually.
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify that, you mean 32 or 35 or $30 per container dump. So if you're
Right.
getting, Shane has an extra one, that's actually $64 for every.
Well, right, that would be out of his budget.
Just to clarify, it's all coming from the taxpayers' money. So.
That I get other departments to jump onto this. The school department, again, I said is interested, but has not done their analysis yet as to if this is something that they want to consider. But yeah, that's how that comes about. And given that we're in August now, even if at the $35, which the owner offered to me, based on my misunderstanding of their discount, it would still be, around $400 this fiscal, because we haven't had any service yet this year.
Okay. Denise, did I see your hand up a second ago?
Yeah.
I see yours, Karen.
Yeah, I think basically the motion needs to be as accurate as we can when it goes to council. So I think what you could do here is it's 35, so it needs to be amended with the 35. You can leave out the annual situation. It's 35 every 4 weeks, regardless of whether that's 13 weeks in a year or 12 weeks in a year, or however, 12 days in a year. It's every 4 weeks, basically. So I really think we should end up with an amendment that changes it to $35 with a knowledge of reduction. With additional containers will result in a reduction of overall fees. I don't know, something, we have to put something in there. I think it's being too vague just to go to council with it's not 32, it's 35. Shane may want his own container, but that's not what you're talking about. So, but you are talking about it. However, so that could just be in what council votes. Council's going to vote with accepting this contract that is $35 with the potential to add more department containers at a decreased rate, something like that. You have to come up with something like that. I haven't worded it, but do you know what I'm saying? Okay. We need to be.
No, I completely understand. Yep. And I only, the $32 honestly was a misunderstanding on my part from the onset. I thought that we had a $32 container for just town hall, but I was wrong.
Okay, no, that's fine. So it's real simple. I think we can, I'll make a motion to amend this. So let me get a stab at it. It should be very simple, because to recommend that council ratify the proposal between the town of Southbridge and Valley Green Shredding LLC to provide services for the secure destruction of records on a regular basis at a cost of $35 for one container every 4 weeks, one 64-gallon container every 4 weeks.
Okay.
With the ability to add additional department containers at a reduced rate.
Second.
Does that sound right?
So we have a motion and a second. I saw Karen's hand go up. Karen?
Yeah, just quickly, because I know that there is support for this, but I just wanted to express my support for this as well. Working in the town hall for a long time, there's been a lot of records that have built up, financial records as well. And this will definitely make an easier avenue for us. And we've started labeling all of our boxes when they can be destroyed. And once we get the permission to do that, it'll make it much easier to keep everything much more tidy. I know that there's very limited space downstairs, so this is really a great idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else have a comments or questions or?
I just would like a clarification.
Right. Go ahead.
I'd like a clarification of what we're voting on. Is it $35 every 4 weeks, or is it $64 every 4 weeks?
The way Denise made the motion, it's $35 every 4 weeks with the option, if other departments want to get their own containers, they would be paying for it. This is specifically for Melissa's department.
Then I think we should just leave the other ones.
Well, it's for the town, but it's $35 for the first 64-gallon container with additional containers to be added at a reduced price, as needed or as.
I think we do need to get some clarification as far as when the other departments, if other departments decide to do this, we need to know. It's not a lot of money, but we do need to know, because it can like double or triple fairly easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no problem supporting it. I just want to make sure we're clear on what we're voting on.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Could I say that perhaps if this gets passed and council passes this as its own contract, because it's a one contract, it is what it's being asked for. Melissa's asking for her department.
Right.
What I would suggest is Melissa could send out a memo to the departments saying we have this new service potentially available to other departments should, they need it, but they would have to go to the appropriate subcommittees to verify the additional containers. Or I'm saying there has to be an additional through the town manager, through a department. They can't just, they're just gonna keep adding it on, and we find out we're paying, lots of, maybe there's some other treading way. I'm just saying there should be at least notification, but she could let people know they have to, it has to be approved that they add that additional into their budget, because it is part of their budget costs or whatever, something like that.
Can we get an idea? Do you have some sort of confirmation, Melissa, from the various departments who are indeed interested now? I mean, you said that Shane is.
He said that he would be interested in it. Whether or not he'll appropriate this for his department, I couldn't say. The school department is looking at it, and the fire department is interested in using the container at town hall because they're literally across the street. And so this time he wants to just see how that goes before he moves any further. I believe that if the school department was to take this on, that is not something that would come to council, but I couldn't say for sure. Obviously, police and fire would be different. But like I said, fire was more interested in just using the container that would be at the town hall.
Okay.
Can I suggest we just leave it simple then? Just keep it simple. And if they want to negotiate, we'll negotiate. But for now, let's just keep it at the $35 every 4 weeks period and just leave it at that.
Well, actually, if I was thinking about it, that if we are approving a contract, it's a contract for the services themselves. We're probably not necessarily approving. Well, I don't know how to say this, because we are approving the contract. We're not necessarily approving the funding because it's already in the budget.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, it's in the budget today. It's a 2-year contract.
I agree.
Budget could change.
We need to know. We just need to know ultimately who's doing it and where it's coming from. Did you have something you wanted to say, Shane?
Well, I certainly don't want to complicate the issue, but I will jump on board with this. We have the need, and I would pay for this out of drug seizures. So it wouldn't cost the taxpayers anything. It's $400 a year that I would pay out of that account that I have from drug money. So I don't know how, and again, I don't want to complicate.
I guess we don't need to do this.
Well, no, I don't want to complicate the issue with councilors and citizen members, but I would like to move forward just because we have a lot of documents that need shredding, and similar to what Melissa and Karen have at their place.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Who's saying that?
Jackie.
Jackie.
If I may, just real quick, I want to circle back. It was brought up earlier on the contract itself and the automatic renewals. So should we include any language in the motion about wanting to see changes to that first?
That's probably a good point. Yep.
Because we don't want to vote on this when we don't have, because there was some very valid things about automatic renewal brought up tonight, and we send this up with recommendation without, I just worry about not attaching that.
That's a good point. Okay. So how about this? And how about I'll entertain a motion to if you don't mind amending your motion, Denise, to include language that we want to see changes to section 6.1 to restrict the number of successive one-year terms that could possibly exist. Would that serve the purpose that we were talking about?
Before it goes for council vote.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, I saw Mike.
Well, that's what I'm just saying.
Go. Okay, Mike.
No, I didn't have anything, sorry.
Hold on.
Did any weight on it, specific weight in that container? Any specific weight?
No, there's no weight. It's just that, basically you stuff the container as full as you can.
Okay, just to make sure, like sometimes they say this is the size, but you can put so much weight in it, and the paper is small, it will weigh a lot of weight. So, if it's not specific weight, so just a question. Thank you.
Nope, just the container, the container volume is the problem, or the constraint.
Thank you.
You had your hand up? Mike, you had your hand up a second ago?
Oh, sorry, I didn't. I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
Okay, Denise?
Okay, so I want to stick with the idea that we're recommending council approve a contract that is $35 every 4 weeks per 64-gallon container for one 64-gallon container, with additional containers added at a lower cost, at a reduced rate. That way it covers the contracts that Melissa's telling us that the more containers we have, the lower the price will be. So we know that we have the initial container at 35. And if Shane wants his container down the road, he can have his container as long as he's, he tells somebody he's paying for it or whatever. But I'm just saying, this is the contract for the service. The service is right now $35 one container. When Shane says he wants that container and it comes up to $32, so be it, that's great. We're not paying more than $35 a container is what the contract is. That's what we're asking for council to approve and what Melissa's given us. Now, we are just a recommending body. So if we recommend that before it goes up to council, there's a change to that recurrence, that's our opinion and our prerogative to ask for, and then to recommend as that, to go to council as that, so I'm thinking what you added, Gus, is fine. And just saying, forget the yearly rate, because that screws it up. Just, it's $35 every 4 weeks for one 64-gallon container, additional containers added at a reduced rate per need. And just that's what we're saying to council, is that this contract, and we, because we're getting into the, oh, this one might want one, that one might want one, the school might want one, but then who's the school paying? How's that going to work out if it's under our contract? Do we take it out of their budget, Karen? So we're getting into the nitty gritty of how many containers. What we really need to focus on is the contract. It's one container, some more can come, and there's a little issue with the potentially recurring years. That's what we're voting on.
I will second that.
Thank you.
And I suggest we just move on. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement. We like this. Let's not kill it, So, Karen, who would pay for it?
Gus, you're muted.
So just so you know, Denise, I'm agreeing to pay for the initial container. Right. Any additional department or location that wants to contract with this company, they would be billed separately for those containers. But then all of the group, like how it works is that all of the groups would then get a reduced rate should the additional container dumps happen.
Do they have to have their own contract, Melissa, or they're just going to be invoiced differently?
They're just going to be invoiced separately.
Okay. All right. So that sounds great. I mean, that's even better.
Yep.
Okay. That answers Karen's question.
So we do have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the way you phrased it, Denise, which is
to amend it.
The contract. Where'd it go? Come on, Brian. The contract with Valley Green Shredding to provide services for secure destruction of records on a regular basis at the cost of $35 every 4 weeks for one 64-gallon container with additional containers at a lower cost, and as a subcommittee, we recommend changing the language of section 6.1 to have a limited number of one-year renewal rollovers. Okay, is that the understanding that I have from everybody?
That's fine.
So,
Okay.
so that I'm clear and I get the right language, it's a 1-year contract with the option to renew or not, or no.
I have no problem with it being a two. I don't know. I'll speak for myself. I have no problem with it being a 2-year contract. However, the language says after you go for 2 years, it can basically roll over forever for 1-year cycles.
So if I change the language from in 6.1 to say a 1-year contract with the option to renew up
That
to,
sounds good.
which is standard for municipalities, that would be acceptable to this body.
Yep.
Well, we could do it that way.
Right the first time, that's all.
The way it's phrased is a 2-year contract with
No,
a limited with only 2 or 3 with no more than 2 or 3 rollover 1-year rollovers.
No, I understand that. So I'm saying we want it to be a 1-year contract with the option to renew for 2 years and then review it in 3. As is
That sounds
standard
good.
for most municipal.
I'm okay with that too.
That sounds like a good deal for them too, yeah.
That sounds
Okay,
good.
that's fine.
Okay with that.
Okay,
Yeah. We'll know in a year whether we like it, yeah.
right. Option for 2 years.
Okay.
Okay, right, okay. Okay, so we have a motion and second on the floor. Any last comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor, Denise,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and me, I'm a yes. Okay, cool. So we'll send that up with a recommendation. Let's see, item number 5, review the
Wait,
proposed.
Mr. Chair, this point of order.
Go ahead, Jackie.
That was just the amendment. We still have to vote.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Thank you. Okay. So that is, so we have the amendment that now that is the main motion. And I think it was Denise who made the first. I think you made the second on that one, Jackie, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, then
I'll
all
make a
those.
motion as amended.
On the motion as amended. Thank you, Denise. Denise?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And me, yes. Okay.
Okay,
Thanks, Jackie.
good for me.
No problem.
Item number 5, review the proposed project feasibility study, preliminary design and permitting of runway 2-20. And I guess that's yours there, Rick, right?
You're muted.
Rick,
Rick, you're muted.
you're muted.
How's that? That's better.
That's better.
This
Start
is
again.
the first step in our capital improvement plan to resurface the runway at the airport. Runway surface currently is rated at a 56, where the critical rating is a 70. So it's gone from a 58 to a 56. Next year it'll be a 53. So required by the FAA and Mass DOT is the feasibility study, which on the feasibility study, part of it includes, at the bottom, includes this airspace obstruction analysis for the runway and a wildlife hazard site visit and preparation of spill prevention control and countermeasure plan. That's the feasibility part. Basically, on the airspace obstruction analysis, there's actually a plane. They draw a plane from either side of the runway up at a 7-degree angle, and it goes off the end of the runway. And they're basically at this point looking for trees. So there may be some trees that have grown into that space we'll have to take care of. So that's what that part of the proposal is. The next part is actually doing a design of the runway and taxiways, a full topo of all those areas and laying them out and preparing all the information in forms and applications for if needed, to the Conservation Commission. There is one part of the runway that's within 200 feet, 100 feet of wetlands, so we'll have to apply to the conservation. So this is basically gets all the engineering done, and the next step after this would be go for the reconstruction of the runway. So in this proposal here, the total cost is $217,000, with the FAA paying $195,300, and the state share is $10,850, and our share would be $10,850.
Okay. Rick, what Is this actually just, this is just repaving the existing runway? This is not expanding the runway?
No, this would be rebuilding an existing runway. We do have a plan to expand the runway by 500 feet, but that's going to be down probably 5 to 10 years from now. Basically, as we build up more planes and we get some bigger planes in, they need longer runways, and that's what we need. And we're starting to write those down, make note of the planes that land and take off. And as we get bigger planes and more of them coming in, we can use that analysis and bring it to the FAA, and they'll help fund the extension of the runway.
Okay, yeah, okay. Also, I was curious, is why are we getting this contract 2 months after it was signed?
It's been gone through, there's a number of analysis that went through, and it's just through, the way to go through the airport commission, then had to go to the town, and it's just taken us a little while to get through it. Actually, it came up in June is when middle of June, and we were in the middle of finishing the fuel farm project that we had at the airport, and I think that consumed all of our time, so it just got delayed there.
So how is that going to affect the timeline, the project schedule timeline that's listed on page 11? I'm assuming everything gets pushed back by a couple of months now?
I think it'll be changed probably about a month and a half. I think there's a lot of the services here are done by some outside services, so Stantec isn't doing all of the work themselves. They're bringing in outside people to do some of the work. And I can get John Henry to give me updated schedule on that to make sure we have the right schedule going to council. We get to that point.
Okay, that'd be helpful. Thanks. Karen?
Yes, thank you. This is the first time that I've heard about this project. I guess my concern would be that the town has to consider where it would get its local share of the 10,850. So I'm not sure that we would want to say that we would be taking it from the airport revolving, not knowing what the balance will be during the year. So I think we need to think about that at this point.
Okay. Do you have any suggestions on that, Karen?
I'm almost wondering if maybe we should take it from the town council reserve, if the town council would support that, or I'd have to take some time to look through and see if there was another place to transfer it from.
Okay. How about some of those how about some of those old unused capital accounts? Are there any of those that we can still use?
Well, I was going to close most of those balances. Anything said that we were going to close at the end of the fiscal year. So I'd rather say probably not from the capital accounts.
Okay. Does anybody have questions or comments? Joe?
Thank you, Chair. We can do like a fundraise for that. I mean, I support that project. I think it's very good for the town to keep the airport going. So I'm not sure if there's any way to just suggest like a fundraise. I'm sure a lot of people use the airport. They love to keep it going. So I don't think they mind to create a fundraise or something, or wherever you recommend the money come from. But I am with that project. I think it's very important to keep that airport going. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Go ahead, Rick, if you can answer that.
I think, looking at our enterprise account, I do believe we may be able to get the funds from that, even though I'd rather see it come from another town account. But I believe we do have some funding coming in there because we do have the solar project that is building that account up. And we are, fuel sales with the new fuel farm have already come in and increase. So I think for that, we may be able to take the funds from our enterprise account. The solar farm pays in approximately $19,800 a year, which we didn't have before. That just started this year or late. I think December last year was the first payment on that. So we do have some buildup in cash that we may be able to use and help the town out that way and take it out of our account.
Okay.
We can take a look and go over that, Karen. We have a budget for this coming year, but we can go through that whole enterprise account.
Okay, Mike, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I would support it if it came out of the airport fund, as Rick has suggested. Absolutely in favor of this. The only thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking at the totals here. And again, I may be looking at it wrong, but it says 217,000, and then inside it says 215,900. So I could be missing something. You could just let me know what that is. Thanks. Thank you.
Rick, Karen, can you?
I think that was a change at the end. The state pushed it up to 217,000 when they were looking at the total account. But again, I'll verify that and have that information to you before your meeting.
Yeah, but that doesn't change how much we pay, does it? Rick?
No. And we do have a chance. We are talking with the state. We may be able to get part of our portion paid by the state. They may kick in some more funds. They've been very generous in the past, but like on the fuel farm, they subsidize majority of the fuel farm project.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Denise?
Thanks. I don't know if this answers on the page 2, and you just flip over, it has the 215.9, Mike, but it also has 1,100 administration costs, which brought it to 217. So I'm not sure if you missed that on the inside
Yeah,
cover page.
I might have missed it. Yep.
So
Thank you.
because I'm not sure where else it's listed officially, but that's where I see it. So coming out of the enterprise fund makes sense at this point. My concern is, have we figured out what our shortfalls are going to be already with the town in terms of the budget itself or the funding itself for the town with everything? Have you come up with any numbers yet as to where we're going to be shortfall wise, community wise? That's one question. The other is, Rick also, so Karen's got that one to think about, but Rick, how long, so you're saying 5 to 10, so will this still be valid? To the couple things, how do you do the engineering study now, but not actually be able to do, when would the runway project itself be, and where's the estimate on that? I mean, like, that's millions, right?
I have an old estimate. I don't have the runway reconstruction project will be somewhere like 1.6 to 2 million to take out the old runway and put in the new one. I don't have the final on that. That would be the next step, but the engineering analysis would be good for at least 3 years that we do this. The topo will last longer than that. I think the only thing it would change would be the wildlife and the obstruction. But I think the FAA has been good about it. They allow that to move out a little bit farther on the timeline. Understand that a lot has to do with the financing.
Right. So Karen, any thoughts on like where our money's coming from, or what little money we're going to have going forward, or with all that's gone on?
Are we talking about fiscal 21? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I thought we were going to be short on 20, never mind 21. So I guess I'm just concerned about, if this is coming from, if this ends up with the airport enterprise fund, makes total sense. I've got no problem with that. If it's another 11,000, even though, I've always supported the airport. I think it's great. It's just, if somebody says, well, why are we doing something at the airport when we're going to have such shortfalls in general here, then it's hard to justify. So I've already had people ask me that question before this meeting. So I'm asking, do you know where we're at financially as a community at this point?
Well, what it seems to look like for the state aid is that we're probably going to be level funded to the fiscal year 2020 numbers. So we do have to do a little tweaking there, which is maybe good news that we're not going to get maybe a 20% cut from fiscal 20, which would be looking for big dollars. So I would definitely support looking with Rick at the revolving account for the airport to see if we can get the 10,850 out of that account.
Okay. And when does our payment, like when would the town's 10,000 be due? It's a huge number. It's a huge project. How does the payment, did I miss the payment process?
Well, usually as we go through, each payment is proportion between either federal, what's eligible for federal, state, or local, and that's how we go about. So we don't necessarily have to vote to transfer it. We could pay it right out of the revolving account as we go along.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Other questions or comments or? Okay. Do you wish to make that as an amendment to the motion to take it out of the airport revolving fund? Denise, Mike, anyone?
I think the amendment, there should be an amendment to say that the funding source should be the revolving fund. I mean,
Second.
Okay, so we have a first and second, and it's simple. Okay.
I'll make that
Any
amendment.
other
That's it.
comments or questions on the amendment? Okay, all those in favor of the amendment, Denise,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yeah.
Mike,
Yes.
and me, yes. Okay. Now to the final motion, which is to where to go? Review the proposed project, and I guess we're reviewing it. So actually, we actually don't have a motion.
Well, entertain a motion. Well, so the motion, right? We moved that. Yeah. Who's doing it?
Contract with Stantec for feasibility study, preliminary design, and permitting of runway 220 reconstruction airport and airspace analysis as defined in the scope of services for the Southbridge Municipal Airport to be provided by Stantec Consulting and Services for a total project cost of $217,000, with the town share to be $10,850 coming from the airport revolving fund.
So
Right.
moved.
Well, you'll keep in the other note, the numbers, and then yes,
Yes.
local share to be, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So moved.
And obviously the council wants to beat that up and say it comes somewhere else.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? Anybody? Okay, all those in favor? Denise,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yeah.
Mike,
Yes.
me, yes. Okay, cool. Okay, so that's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Rick. Item number 6, review the lease agreements between the town of Southbridge and Investment Guru LLC of 14 Hamilton Street for a waste receptacle. Next to are waste receptacle leases that have no money attached to them. So, and who's going to talk about this one? Is this Rosemary or you, Karen, or?
I can talk about it, Gus.
Is that Rosemary?
So, yes, it is. Yes. So I had attached a cover sheet, but basically this is part of phase 4 of the upgrade of the Central Street parking lot. So it's the corner at Main Street and Hamilton Street. The DPW is doing the construction oversight. They put together the scope of this. So it includes paving as well as installing enclosures for dumpsters. So it's to kind of clean up that corner and have it be kind of in, kind of look like the rest of the upgraded parking lot. So there are 3 dumpsters that are going to be in an enclosure that are on town land, within I don't even know, maybe 50 or 60 feet of private land. So there has to be a lease agreement. We're not charging them anything. We're the ones that wanted to do this. We built into the lease agreement that those private property owners would just make sure that they maintained the area and the dumpster enclosure and had it, kept it free of trash and, any other foreign object.
Okay. And I do have a quick question. So will the public be able to use these dumpsters?
No, these are just specifically so the dumpsters we're not paying for. We're just allowing these private property owners to locate their dumpsters in these locations, and we're paying for the enclosures as part of the phase 4 Central Street parking lot project. So the private property owners will be, I don't really know if they lease from their trash company, but they're not, the dumpsters are not owned by the town. They would be privately owned.
Okay. Denise, you had your hand up?
Yeah. So that was part of my question was who's paying for the dumpster, for the dumping of the dumpsters. I point out that 338 continues to have overfilled dumpster in the corner of behind their property,
That's true. They do.
along with usually storing of a trailer, which should never be there over the sidewalk. So we're paying for the enclosures as part of it, which I guess, I mean, obviously we want the place to look good. I saw that, okay, wait, I made some comments there. Okay, under number 14, the liability insurance, the lessee maintains, a $1 million per occurrence liability policy. So you've gotten, I guess I want to make sure you've gotten these documents from I see some stuff in here, some notarized signatures and such. So does that mean so what if these private hauler companies, I don't know if it's going to be all the same, if they're all using the same company that does these dumpsters, maybe you'll know. But what if they say damage? What if they damage the enclosure in some way? How does the town, get that fixed back up? I realize we have some enclosures on the Main Street side, between buildings, the pretty gated stuff. I don't know if I read that in here. I mean, what happens with that? And my concern was on one of who determines the size, who gets what size, I guess. There was one in here that gave a notarized, this one, dumpster lease space. Who is this guy? Number 7, item number 7 that's written on our little packet, this particular lease. The owner out of New York, Wolakowitz, he gave his power of attorney to somebody else, but the power of attorney starts to be effective on, and that was blank on this document. So I had some concerns on that too. So that's a two-parter. One is who pays for the damage to the pretty fenced-in areas we paid for, or the taxpayers paid for out of grant money. And this lease number 7.
Okay, so I conferred with our treasurer on this. It's town-owned property. So I'm trying to remember, is Melissa on the phone still?
I don't know. You still there, Melissa?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So remember you checked with our insurance company about how this would work, and I'm not remembering what the response was. Whatever it was worked into the lease agreement. Do you remember?
I don't. I thought, Rosemary, that you contacted Susan directly, but I could check my emails and see. But
yeah, whatever the insurance expert told us, we worked it into the lease agreement. So it would be, I think the entity that is leasing that little bit of square of land and the enclosure had to put the town on their insurance policy. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And then as far as the other question, so Denise, tell me again what that was that you're asking me, number 7 on one of the lease agreements? Is that what it was?
No, not number 7. If you look at the documents, I would assume you would have the same documents. Maybe not. Okay, never mind. It's the lease agreement.
I have all of the documents in front of me. So the first one we're doing is 338, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So 338, which is in front of me here. I see that at the top now, the little letters, dumpster lease agreement signed the 20th of May. Inside, there's a limited power of attorney that was that they included from their lawyer.
Okay, so that's actually agenda item 7. Yes.
We're on number 6, Denise.
No, I know we are on number 6. I just have. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I'm looking at
related, so I have no problem
looking at the leases as a whole. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I won't talk about that lease till it comes up. So let's go back to that first lease. So Rosemary, you said that, yes, I see, and I mentioned that it says that they, as part of the comprehensive public liability insurance, the amount of $1 million per occurrence. But my question was, so if they damage the enclosure, Heather, whoever, you guys built these enclosures or you're in charge of this project, if the hauling company damages is that going back to the lease person then? Because they have to maintain it in good standings? I mean, who's gonna pay for any issues of damage to the enclosure was my, that we pay for?
I can't answer that. I just know that the indemnification liability is I mean, I could read that out loud, but I can't answer that specifically because I don't know exactly how insurance works in that situation, but we asked our insurance expert and then we included in the lease agreement what they recommended. So if you read that section, because I can't really answer, I can't answer that any further than what's already in the lease agreement.
Okay, and who did our lease? Who did the town attorney make the lease? Who did this lease?
Yes, Attorney Caprera worked with us on this.
And one last thing, if these people didn't have this space to put their trash, which is what we want them to have because it will look nicer, did they each have a spot? As I said, 338 had a spot.
Yes, they were in various positions. They would get moved. They were unsightly.
Right.
So the DPW director said, I just want to have them all in one location that's a permanent location and have them screened from view, just like the rest of the parking lot. Most of the rest of the parking lot is right now, just to be enclosed. And, so they were just, in kind of random locations, visible to the general public. And that's why she created a permanent location.
Yeah. Okay. I guess my biggest concern is that it says that they have to each keep up their space. Each one says the same thing about keeping up the area. It almost would have made more sense that they paid for something so that we would just make sure that because if one doesn't do it and the other one does and the other one says, no, I did it, but he shoveled the snow in front of my thing, or I worry that this is going to become a problem. But I mean, it is a nicer idea. It's a way better idea than what I've seen down there. So.
That's true. Heather, can you address that?
Yeah, I just want to clarify a little bit. There are each dumpster is getting its own enclosure area. There are two that are right next to each other, so it will be very clear of who's not keeping up with whose enclosure, whose dumpster area. One of them is getting enclosed basically where it's sitting right now, where you first enter on the left there. I believe I'm not good with what number is what, to tell you the truth. Yeah, and I don't have the documents in front of me. I'm not even at my house because I don't even have power there. So bear with me. So one of them is getting enclosed right where it is currently, if you see it on the left. And then two of the other ones are going over, being moved to be side by side, along with the grease dumpster for the Chinese food restaurant. So they're all, it's going to be all enclosed, but each dumpster will have its own area, and that is what they're designated to take care of. We just wanted to have some teeth behind the lease that basically said that, look, we're going to try to make an effort to clean up this area. We want you to make an effort to keep this clean also. So please, if they violate their lease, we can terminate their agreement and make them move their dumpster somewhere else or deal with some other difference. So we do have some teeth here by saying that they have to keep it clean. I didn't negotiate the lease agreements. I've left that with Rosemary and the town attorney. So.
Okay.
I was curious, you mentioned the grease dumpster. Have they gone through the Board of Health for that?
I have no idea.
There are requirements for all
it's been.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've had one for a long time, Gus. So
Okay.
we're just proposing relocating it.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah, these are
Heather, you got cut off there.
These are all existing right there. Sorry, these are all existing dumpsters. I believe there's one location that doesn't have a current dumpster that they were the first reason that we started having this conversation. because they came to the town manager and said, I need a place to put a dumpster and I don't have any land to put it on. Can I lease a parking spot for you? And it kind of spun into this whole conversation of, can we do something to make this whole area look better, since the rest of the parking lot's all repaved and all nice and level. And the more we walked around there, the more I noticed, the sidewalks were all failing. It was really in bad shape back there. And I was aware that CDBG still had some additional funding underneath the project that we could potentially tap into to finish that area.
And do we have any teeth to make sure that they actually get picked up and they don't just allow those enclosures to get full of just junk overflowing?
That would be through the Board of Health and the Board of Health requirements, and also the fire department. If they don't maintain their dumpster areas, it all goes back to enforcement with them. And I understand the frustration there and what is going on, but we're going to have to keep working on options with the different owners and things of that nature to try to address them as much as we can. And I'm as frustrated as you, because it's my department that ends up having to go and clean up the messes that other people make. So I understand that. So I'm going to be vigilant. I already took action against one of the owners down there this week and had a dumpster pulled out of there because they left it without permission. So I'm trying to be as proactive as I can and be vigilant down there when we see things going on. But I'm only one department with so many teeth, and I took it on myself to say that I knew that he was in violation of having it in a area that he wasn't approved. And I called the dumpster company, and they were very responsive and came and took it out right away.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else have questions? Denise?
Yeah, whoops, yeah. So will these be locked? Because the problem I see with like 338 and the problem that was happening all over Main Street with 338 was the illegal dumping from their tenants. They would be full up in the corner, and it was ending up in, for instance, the roll-off dumpster that was in the vacant lot that is now surrounded by a fence, which made it much harder for them to do that. And so how, will they be locked so that their tenants can only use it? Are they going to, is there any kind of, have you had any talks about that? To anybody?
So 338 is owned by a company that is out of New York. However, they have a property manager that is on site. I haven't heard of problems with that dumpster. I've heard of issues with 318 where they're using the trash barrel on Main Street.
Right. Sorry, yeah, the wrong number.
No, that's okay. It's confusing. And then there was also a problem that Heather just addressed, as she mentioned, with they were moving someone out, or they were trying to clear out one of the apartments over the weekend, and they kind of pulled a dumpster up on the little handicapped ramp and just kept it there all weekend. So that, we tried to address that. The DPW put together a design where the current 4 toters that they have in the back of that 318, that's what they're using right now. And so DPW said that they would build an enclosure for that as part of this phase 4, but we couldn't get a temporary easement agreement from that owner because he said that's not an adequate amount of capacity. So we suggested that he just have the trash picked up more frequently. I know that the health director is working with that owner. There's been a number of fines against that owner. It's this ongoing problem. It's very difficult.
Yeah, it's probably worse now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Just for clarification, that 318 is not one of these leased properties.
I realize that.
Yeah, I do hope in the future that we can work through issues with 318 and where Fidel's is and everything, that maybe in the future we can do something to address enclosures for those properties, because I know we had a meeting on site and we promised to come back and try to figure out a different solution long-term for those two, and maybe 318 can be included in that discussion. But for right now, you know, they're not part of that either. So just for clarification purposes.
Right.
Any other further questions or comments on this particular issue? Anyone? Okay. So I don't think we actually have a motion on the floor. So do we have so what's your pleasure? Anybody?
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at one. Okay, I'll make a motion to recommend that council ratify the plan of waste receptacle lease area lease to provide permanent dumpster enclosure space on a portion of town-owned land as part of the Central Street parking lot project.
For investment guru LLC.
14 Hamilton Street, 14 Hamilton Street.
Okay.
That's the first one.
Who was the second?
Jackie.
Jackie, okay. Okay, any other last minute questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? Denise?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Mike?
No.
And Gus is a yes. Okay, so 3-1. Item number 6, sorry, that was 6. Number 7 is a lease agreement for plan of waste receptacle lease area with Southbridge Equities LLC of 277 Broadway Suite 801 in New York. And
Motion.
okay, and do we have a second on that one?
Second.
Okay. Okay, and this is pretty much the same thing as we were just looking at, right there, Rosemary? Anything different from it?
Yes, no, well, that's at 338 Main Street.
Right.
The one that you just voted on was 14 Hamilton.
Right.
And this is the one that Denise mentioned that the manager of the LLC he provided his his power of attorney to an employee. So she's the one that signed it.
Right. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I was pointing out, Gus, that it didn't have an effective start date on the power of attorney. And it went, he was appointing Yehudia Wakowitz versus he is the other one. He's the other name, Yehudis versus, no, they're both Yehudis. This doesn't make sense.
It doesn't say the same. It says it's signed.
Oh, it's Mosh whatever appoints Yehuda Wakowitz. Yeah.
But you know, the signature of appointee though says Yehudia Walkovich, but the name underneath is Yehudis Minster.
Okay, so I saw that and I asked for it to be made consistent, and I got that modified one. So somehow it sounds like the modified one didn't make its way to you. So I can certainly get that. What happened was it went from me to then Peg kind of took it over and forwarded things, the paperwork to the town manager's office. So maybe that make its way to you. So I'll make sure that you have that.
With the dates and everything on them? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Anybody else have questions or comments? Denise?
Thanks. Rosemary, so with that insurance that I keep harping on, it says that they have to provide you a copy and all such. Is that going to be handled before this is, do you have copies of their insurance now?
Yeah, they provided all of that.
You've seen that? You have a copy in the file with this?
Yeah, so I guess that was not forwarded to you?
Their insurance? Am I missing something?
No.
And that's okay that it's not forwarded to us, but I'd like to know that not you think, but that you actually have received these before we set up an agreement and they haven't actually provided the liability insurance.
Okay, so I will check on that. I will check on that to confirm.
Okay, but Wasn't it your, okay. I would assume that
The
did you
file goes-
negotiate these?
Yeah, I mean, there really wasn't anything to negotiate because we didn't pay them for these. We just simply said, I mean, we were doing something, we were providing them with a benefit, and it was kind of a win-win. So, you know, and this has been probably at least a month or so since I worked on these. So what you're asking is confirmation that they have added this to their insurance policy. That's what you're asking, Denise?
Well, according to this lease, Rosemary, they are supposed to provide the town a certificate of insurance at or prior to the commencement of the term. So prior to the town, for the town council voting on this, they were supposed to provide it, and thereafter within 30 days prior to the expiration of any such policy. Let's see, wait a minute, there's another thing in there. Hang on. Yeah, they're supposed to provide the town with a copy of this prior to the commencement of the term of this agreement in which you had people sign. This is a legal document. They're also in that usually, because I know how this works with some other stuff that I deal with for my work. That when somebody defaults on their insurance, or if they do, then the town or somebody, whoever's got some sort of benefit, usually gets a notification that the policy is lapsed or something. But
yeah,
I mean, this is a legal document. Even if there's no money involved, it has liability issues for the town. So we just want to make sure when they sign it, it means something. It's not just a no dollar piece of paper here.
Right. So the work is scheduled to start, I believe, on Monday. And then we're expecting it's going to take about 30 days. So I guess that would be when the lease would begin. So we will make sure that we will follow up. Again, like I said, I'm not recalling how I left it with them. These are this is a project that now Peg Dean is the lead on it. So I will follow up with her to make sure that we definitely have these in hand well before we need them.
I'd like to point out that we have had issues in the past with having to chase people down for months on end to get their insurance certification. I believe, wasn't one of the earlier contractors on this very project one of those problems, if I remember correctly?
Phase one of the project, they didn't provide adequate evidence of insurance, so we were on that, but it took them a long time to actually finally provide us with the insurance we had asked for.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking. You wanted to say something, Heather?
I would just state that it's very simply done by instructing the town manager or whoever who's going to sign this document, that the document is not signed until the certificate insurance is included with the document. Because the document is not going to start until these bins are constructed, but we should have them in this agreement already approved and in place and ready to be signed by the town manager or whoever is acting at the time, with instructions that it's not signed unless all of the information, meaning the insurance certificate, is included. And if it's not included, he doesn't sign it and they don't get to put the dumpster there. It's very simple.
Right, that would be a simple way to do it.
That makes sense. Denise?
I'm going to add, thank you, Heather, that was well stated, but I'm going to say that, Rosemary, you're presenting this to this committee this evening with expectations that it's going to council to be voted on. It is your job, not even Peg's, not anybody else's, to make sure that everything is verified and done. And when it goes to the town manager, it's your job that it goes thoroughly to the town manager with whatever it needs before he signs. That's your job as the department head of P&D. That's it. There's no dropping the ball or passing the buck. Your job.
No passing intended. Got it, Denise.
Well, thank you very much for that, Denise. Anybody else have comments or questions on this one? Okay, in that case then, and I think we do have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor?
Yes.
Denise,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yeah.
Mike,
No,
and me, yes. Okay. And item number, where are we? Number 8, review the lease agreement for waste receptacle for Dynasty Restaurant, which is pretty much the same thing as the ones we were just talking about. Anything else we need to know about this one, Rosemary?
Just that it's a grease dumpster, but that's it. And
Is
it's right next to the other two.
is there any remote fire risk of this being a grease dumpster? How is that-
I don't
how
know.
is that
They have
different?
one now. They have one now that it's been approved. They're very close to where we're proposing that this one be located to.
Okay.
So, you know, I'm assuming that that is all in order. We're just talking about relocating an existing one.
I'm assuming that's.
Okay. Anybody else have comments or questions on this one?
Just that the paperwork's in order.
Yeah,
That's it.
exactly. I totally agree. Okay. Oh, do we have, can I have a motion then?
Okay, make a motion that we recommend that council ratify, the lease agreement between the town of Southbridge Equities LLC of 277 Broadway, New York, plan
No,
of waste
we're
receptacle
number 8.
lease area.
Denise, we're number 8.
Oh, did I do the wrong one?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't flip the page. They all look the same.
They
Same,
are.
like that, reverse. What does Willy Wonka say? Lease agreement with Young Chin Chen Dynasty Restaurant entitled Plan of Waste Receptacle Lease Area to provide permanent dumpster enclosure space on town-owned land as part of Central Street parking lot project.
Okay.
Keeping the first line the same.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this one? Okay. All those in favor? Denise,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yeah.
Mike,
no,
and me, yes. Okay. And item number 9, discuss recommended changes to the town's current keeping of pets bylaw, which, that was included in our packets, and the changes that are being raised are the 2 highlighted paragraphs at the very beginning. If I can find my copy now. Yeah. And are you guys set? That was going to be on you there, Shane? You want to?
Yeah, if I could, again, Mr. Chair, thank you. Mid-July, Animal Control Officer Spencer and I were having a conversation about an issue that was brought to our attention on social media. A citizen, which luckily this is why we do public readings, during one of the previous 2 that we held, noticed that there was an item that was omitted. The citizen, and she was right. There was never anything mentioning that a dog owner needed to provide an actual current rabies certification, present to the town clerk, proving that they in fact do have that vaccination. We reviewed the current bylaw that's in place now and the one that we modified. And we also, this has been shown to countless people in the animal control industry, and no one picked up on that. There was actually no language. So ACO Spencer's here tonight, but what I will say is she essentially took the Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 145B, and she just added it to our keeping of pets bylaw. So now it clearly states that you must have that verification, that certification.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I just have a couple questions. There's a lot more that's changed to this document than just the 2 paragraphs. They eliminated completely the fee schedule from it. Where did that go?
The fee schedule's on the second page.
Did mine get omitted for some reason then? Because I don't have the fee schedule in front of me. I have it in the old one, but the previous one, the one I got in my packet, doesn't have it for some reason.
It's right above kennel licenses.
What number is that? Where's it supposed to be?
Yeah,
what section?
They forgot a page in my packet. That's what they did.
Yeah, I'm not seeing.
I'm missing it too, I think.
I have a fee
Yeah.
schedule at the last page under section 6-205. Is that the one you're referring to, Ken? First offense, second offense, third offense, penalties. And I have.
I'm talking about the cost for the licenses. That page is completely missing from the document I received.
Yeah, I don't have that one either.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
That should have been included in this packet. Nothing has changed with this other than what's highlighted. And the fee schedule should be on the second page of this document. It starts with 6-201, licensing of dogs. The second page has the complete fee schedule. I'm not sure why that was omitted. That certainly was not our intention.
Okay.
Can we just make sure we get a corrected one for the full council?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I noticed it
Thank
jumps
you.
from 6-201.1 to 6-201.3. So
Yeah.
that must be the section you're referring to. Actually, it looks like we got alternate pages because then it goes from 201.3 to 201.7.
Yeah, I mean, we're missing huge portions.
Yeah,
For some reason, it didn't print out the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay. That was my big concern. I was like, what happened to the bylaw? And I also I want to talk about the fact I want a little bit more of an in-depth. Is Caitlin on?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Because maybe it was just the way we were hearing her on the screen to the dais, but I had a hard time understanding her explanation for getting rid of 3-year licenses if they do have certification within 30 days. I just don't understand the reason why we're getting rid of it.
So what I noticed when I took on this position about 2 years ago, our licensing policy is pretty poor with compliance. Also speaking with when I went to the Animal Control Academy and I was with the Animal Control Association of Massachusetts, it's not really recommended for a 3-year due to that compliance. And the way that our current bylaw has it set up, only a selected amount of citizens actually qualify for a 3-year license, and it's not fair for everybody. Dog licenses are supposed to be done no later than March 31st. So if somebody gets a 3-year rabies vaccine at let's just say September, they're only going to be able to qualify for a 1-year license. With the impoundings of the animals that I have gotten, there's this impression that once they get a 3-year license, they're always allowed to get a 3-year license. So I was running into a lot of people not having a current license because that's the impression that they were under. Also with our licensing program that the town clerk has, because Southbridge is our only municipality in central Massachusetts that actually has a 3-year license, this computer system has to be modified. So I actually cannot get an accurate list of who's licensed and who's not. We also have such a large transient population that when we have that 3-year licensing, I know I would probably forget myself to call the town hall after 2 years that I moved. So when I get a list, if I was, some of these people have already moved out of the town. So my lists are always accurate. And also, I kind of worry about modifying a program that's supposed to be efficient. Like I'm supposed to be able just to hit like a records button, and I can't do that because of all the modifications that we've had to do with this current computer system that we have for our dog licenses.
Okay. Thank you for that. I also, reading this, did you guys, because I can't tell in the new version, in the old version that was presented, you had late fee after March 31st, single license $10, and late fee after, so is that $10 only for the 30 days and then it gets worse, right?
Yes, and that goes with all the other municipalities that I looked into with how they do their licensing programs and what the state was saying.
All right, that's it.
Gus?
Go ahead.
This is Maddie.
Okay, go ahead. You keep cutting out, Maddie.
I'm at town hall. I don't know why I'm still working, but on the fee schedule, it says late fee after March 31st. However, I believe it should be May 1st because in the paragraph above it, it says the grace period after March 31st shall start April 1st until April 30th. So I don't know why we would be giving a late fee on March 31st if it's on the above paragraph, it's saying they have until April 30th.
That makes sense, yeah. And Caitlin, what does actually happen if somebody holds off and doesn't get renewed until, say, May 15th? What happens then? But besides getting the late penalty for $10, they're also beyond the window.
They would just have to pay for the dog license and the $10 late fee if it was April 15th that you were saying.
Oh, I was saying if they waited till like May 15th or June 15th or no, they purposely go beyond the extra month. It happens.
You get charged the late fee and the dog license fee.
It just makes it so if they don't license their dog after this grace period, then the violations for unlicensed dog can take effect.
And also, I just have another issue. Although I do want to say that our software program, we do work with the programmer, and we have gotten the 3-year is all settled. We can see it. But on another note, the late fee for a kennel license, it's gone from $10 late fee to $50. That's a large increase for our residents at any given time, but especially now.
That was from the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 140, Section 137A, kennel license recommendation of what now the state is saying for that.
Can we make a modification of that for people who are doing kennels as a commercial enterprise versus kennels because they just happen to have 4 dogs and they just love dogs? Okay.
If I could, Mr. J, I have an issue with that. I think it should stand at what the state calls the fine. We haven't updated these probably since the 80s or 90s. So fees without any teeth to them do nothing. They don't change behavior in the community. And I think that the fines need to have some type of impact on somebody to prevent them from, just blowing it off, not going to license their dog, not licensing a kennel. I agree with everything here. We've vetted this. We've gone to subcommittee, 15 different meetings on this. And honestly, I'm not sure why this, I assume this could, I expected this just to go back to council and for the 3rd reading with that modification added. So I don't know. It just seems like we're going over everything that we've gone over the last 2 years. And we've already vetted this, voted on this unanimously. And it got pushed up to council. Now we're getting, and again, no disrespect to anybody, but questions about, fines and years and things like that. We went over this ad nauseum with Caitlin and I both present. So I don't know where we stand on that now. And I just wouldn't recommend reducing any of the fines back to those 80s, 90s, early 2000s. It doesn't do anything. It'd be like if we issued parking violations now, it's $50 fines for alternate side parking. They used to be $15 when I started in 95. Obviously $15 isn't much of a deterrent anymore. So it's been increased to 50. So that's why I think we should kind of follow suit with all of our animal bylaws and regulations, especially now that we have a very proactive animal control officer that will enforce these fines. Just my opinion as the chief.
Okay, well, I understand that because we definitely have talked to these things to death. And
I mean,
I'm not quite sure why these two paragraphs actually came back to GenGov in the first place.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I sent this all to the chairman and to the town manager's office to Yvonne, and the next thing I know, I got an alert that I had a general gov meeting tonight, a couple weeks ago. So I don't know how it ended up here either, but we're here to talk about it again.
Well, thank you for coming, both of you. Are there any other questions or comments? Denise?
Thanks, Gus. We can't see anymore, Gus. Did you shut your camera off? Yeah, so I like the new language. I'm glad you added it in. I hadn't noticed, and it's interesting because other towns, as you say, I know in Charlton, you have to bring that vaccination in, you know, so the fact that it wasn't on there, I don't know how we all missed that back in the 2 years, as you say, of general government meetings over and over. And I applaud you for sticking with it. I believe your last part, you know, why did it come back to Gen Gov? So this is a bylaw. I could just give you a little bit of political bureaucracy crap, right? So this is a bylaw. Bylaws are instituted by council generally. So when they're going through all the readings and suddenly there's a change, it really shouldn't be a change because Caitlin Spencer or even Chief Woodson got up there and said, change this. It should be, it's supposed to be initiated by council. They make bylaws, you know? So I think perhaps, now I'm just throwing it out there because I've heard some whispering, you know, but also when I think about it, it's absolutely true. You know, so it comes back through Gen Gov. It goes back up as a council initiated kind of a thing in a sense, you know, with your input. That's great. You guys know what you're doing. You know, I don't think, you know, whatever. We'll leave it at that. So I think that perhaps is why it came back to Gen Gov. Perhaps, but it makes sense that it did, even if it wasn't the reason. Okay.
Shane?
Oh, let me think. Was there something else? I thought there was something else. As far as fees, I have to agree. First off, you could be late 6 months, you're still paying $10. You know, it's not like you're saying, and if you're late for your kennel 50, because I don't have that page, are you still just paying 50? No matter when you finally do it? So, you know, I mean, break that up over a few months. It really wasn't a $50 late charge because it was one time. It wasn't every month. You're not saying 50 today, now 60 next month, 70 the month after. It's a one-time fee. I think if you've got that many dogs and you know the rules and we get this out there to the public, you better put it on your calendar. It's like anything else. It's due, it's payable, like your taxes and everything else. So it's for the good of our entire community that we have control over pets. It really is. It's dangerous out there. It's scary sometimes to walk, which I walk these streets a lot, you know, with children and without. And I think we need to make sure that we're on top of this. Other communities and people say, oh, we're not everybody else. You're right, but we could even be better than everybody else. So let's take care of our citizens and our pets because it is for their safety and care as well that we're making sure we know who's got them and whether they're good pet owners even, you know, by doing the right thing. So, all right, off the horse.
I got a question for whoever can answer this question. Would it be legal to treat the people who don't do it on time the same way we treat taxes by adding interest fees to them? I don't know if anybody can answer that question.
And if I'll take a stab at it, Councilor Steves. I wouldn't recommend doing that. I just say the late fee is the late fee and license your dog. I don't want to overly complicate it, overcharge people and things like that. My question though is we've done 2 readings on this. So does this now have, I don't know if Ms. Clements knows, 1 more reading or do we have to go to 3 with the language change? 3 more.
Ask that too.
I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen it done both ways. I've seen when council does an amendment and then they just finalize that 3rd reading. It really depends on if, you know, this is a public meeting here where people could look at and watch. Technically, you know, you do these readings so you can amend something. To have to go back and read it 3 more times doesn't seem to make much sense because your amendment, on the other hand, people need the opportunity to okay that amendment, you know, if the public wants to hear it. I'm in favor of, you know, going through with it and being done. It's kind of the chair's call at this point and whether anybody balks at whichever way the chair chooses. There's consensus on both sides in my experience of sitting up there and reading and then changing. Sometimes, you know, a few words 2 paragraphs were added. So hard to say. It's a tough one.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, Denise. Shane?
I recommend then, you know, as my position, and I'm certainly not speaking for the ACO, but I respectfully request that the council at least consider reading this just 1 more time so we can implement this and move on and start working under the 1-year license. Just our request from the police side, and the council can vote as they please.
Hey,
if I could just add with us on that.
Go ahead.
I just want to add that please read it in its entirety, council. As a citizen of this community, I am asking you to read the bylaws so people like myself and others know exactly what's being done. Because one thing that isn't getting done when we make changes is that things are not being struck and left in so that people can compare. I'm always told you can take an old one and compare it to a new one. But the reality is when you ask how it should be done right and legally, Chief, that's the way you're supposed to. That's why the state does it. That's why there's pages and pages of things when you go to documents of the state, because they've scratched and left and read and changed. And that's really how it's supposed to be done. But it doesn't get done that way, even on our, whether it's our charter, whether it's our rules, regs, it doesn't. And it's unfortunate. So I am respectfully asking that it be read in its entirety. I don't care how many pages it takes. You know, we used to read them, and it's wrong to waive. That's supposed to be an emergency type. Waiving readings is not your right. It is a marginal privilege to public bodies. They are supposed to, at every instance, try to do the right thing and let the public know what's going on. And that's the truth. That is the real fact out there, from investigation to it and all that. So it's a shame that readings are getting waived on things. That's just not, it's just not. So,
Okay.
anyway.
Anybody else have anything they would like to say about this bylaw? Okay, is there a motion?
Wait for Jackie. Or to make a motion that we recommend the changes to the town's current keeping of pets bylaw, and that the council read the bylaw one more for the third and final reading and accept it.
Is there a second?
It didn't sound right, but okay.
No? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Was that Mike seconding it? Okay. Any further comments or questions? Blinking, do you have anything you want to say? No? Okay, in that case, then all those in favor, Denise?
Yes.
Jackie?
No.
Mike?
Yes.
Me? Yes. Okay. And we are on item number 10, new business. Thank you, Chief and Caitlin.
Thank you guys for having us.
Have a good night. You both look kind of tired, so go get some sleep. Item number 10 is new business. Is there any new business? Mike?
I mentioned this to you before. I don't want this meeting to go on too late. I mean, it's pretty late already, but I just wanted to ask that you at least consider having discussions in the future about having an elected Board of Health.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you did mention that. Okay.
A lot of residents have asked me about that. I think it's a good idea. In the past, we have gotten into trouble. I felt, my own opinion, that the trouble began when the Board of Health was appointed rather than elected. Because they don't really, I don't feel they really answer what the residents want. So I'm just asking that we have a discussion in the future. We don't have to go over it tonight, but
okay.
I'd like you to consider it.
That's good.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have something they want to bring up? Going once? Going twice? Denise?
Mr. Chair, did you appoint, I mean, what's going on with Gen Gov?
What do you mean? As in citizen members?
Well, like, is this Gen Gov? I mean, yeah, did Gen Gov vote on people or do, okay.
You mean for
in terms of
members?
Committee members.
We haven't seen any applicants. So as
I sent in one.
Kind of carrying over. I haven't seen it. I never got it.
Okay. I sent it to Yvonne. Has it?
I never saw it. I'm not surprised you did, but I never saw it. So.
Oh, okay. I got it's in there. I can send you a copy, but because I sent it by email. But yeah, okay. Just wondering what was going on.
Yeah, I have not seen anything. So as of right now, you're just kind of rolling over. So I believe it is. I believe it is until somebody is appointed to replace you or you're reappointed. So.
Right. Because sometimes we never had people. Yes.
Right. And just remember, for anybody who's still on, if anybody else who's interested, or you know somebody who's interested and wants to be the other citizen member on GenGov, or for that matter, any other subcommittee, put your name in, because we need a whole bunch of people. And for anybody else who's interested in any of the other various town boards and commissions. We're gonna need a whole bunch of people there, although obviously us other councilors can't be on them. But I guess that's all I had to say about that. Anybody else have anything they want to bring up? Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Denise?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And me, yes. Thank you very much for coming. Have a great night. I am ending the recording now. I hope. How do I do this?